Hey everyone, welcome to Build Series. I'm your host, Lauren Moraski. You know our next guest from their 2013 hit Cool Kids off their debut Talking Dreams. Since then, they've garnered over 1 billion streams, and now the alt-pop trio is out with their sophomore album, Lonely Generation. Please everyone, put your hands together for Echosmith.
Thank you.
Hey guys, so great to have you here. Welcome to Build. This album really touches on a lot of what's going on today and a lot of what a lot of people can relate to. It's about connection. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what you really wanted to do here?
So we called it Lonely Generation because, well, there's a title track, of course, but it just felt like the perfect title for this album in this time and in this time in our lives as we're all just trying to figure out the right balance between social media and the internet and access to anything and anyone that we want, but also real life and real connections and real face-to-face conversations. And it just felt like the most perfect album title for this collection of songs because it's about us. It's about these emotions that we experience, whether it's good or bad or somewhere confusing in between those two emotions. It's just us being so honest. And I think Lonely Generation, the words themselves are so honest and just sort of addressing what we're all experiencing together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like today we have so many more ways to connect, but yet sometimes you feel even more lonely than ever in a weird way. So, I mean, I think it's 100% relatable. Take me back to the writing on this, because I know it took like, it's been 7 years since we've seen like a full-length album. You've released like teases and et cetera, but and one song I think even stems back from high school, right? So
yeah, so the last song
you did your research,
yeah,
I like that.
Reading up. I didn't even know that. No, it's great. Yeah, the last song in the record, I Don't Want to Lose My Love, started just as like a piano line and chorus idea that I had when I was 15. And so it was fun even like as we were making this record, and we had the EP that was released in 2017, which was 7-ish, 8 songs or whatever that we were super stoked on. Then after that, we were kind of looking at our own selves, kind of checking our hearts and figuring out like, okay, where are we at? What do we want to write about? And then that, I think I was just looking through my notes on my phone, and I've always kind of like been hooked to that little melody. And I brought it back. I'm like, hey, why don't we write around this? And so it's fun to kind of connect something that came from, I don't know, such a different time in my life. I know I was such a different human being then, and to kind of connect that now to all of us and to bring that to my family, this band, think, okay, how can we recreate this into something we can feel and connect to now in 2019, 2020?
Yeah, but you think back, I mean, a lot's changed since you put out that first album. Can you talk a little bit about how the world has changed around you, whether it's social media, et cetera, and then how each of you has changed? Because between marriage and friends and just life in general, a lot can happen in that time period.
A lot can happen, especially when it's in those formative years. I mean, I was 16 when the first album came out, and now I'm 22.
Think about that.
Am I?
What's the math?
So yeah, obviously a lot has changed, and that's usually when people graduate high school or go to prom for the first time and then go off to college and find out sort of who they are, or at least start that sort of process, because that's obviously a big one. Yeah. But we really experienced so many of those same things that we probably would have experienced if we did go to college too, and we all are kind of trying to figure out who we are, and I'm just beginning that process now, but especially on this album, I got to really explore that with the songwriting and explore being vulnerable through that, because figuring out who you are, whether you do music or something else, anything else, we experience this weird time in our lives where you're figuring out, who am I, what do I want, and why do I want that? And that's something that I have reflected on a lot with music and my everyday life, because I've always wanted to do music, and that was so obvious to me, especially as a 16-year-old who was just so excited that I had any opportunity. And growing up, I think it was really important for me to really remind myself why I wanted to do music and why we got into it in the first place. So discovering that again and falling in love with music again was so crucial to this album, and that's why we're so proud of this album and so excited about it. So it's been a totally crazy 7 years, and of course, a lot of that was touring and meeting so many amazing fans and hearing really personal stories, which impacted our lives in a really special way too. And then there's a lot of time where we are writing songs and living life for the first time in a while, and that was really special and really crucial to actually being able to write songs. You need to live life to write songs.
Totally. I can't imagine what that time would have been like when you put out your first album and your single gets, hits like, what was it, number 13 or something on the Billboard charts. It's like it's a huge hit. You're on stage with Taylor Swift, by the way. What was that time like for you guys?
It was just so thrilling and busy and exciting and exhausting at the same time. We're so grateful that we got to experience all those different things. I mean, you touched on a couple awesome highlights, and we got to play on our favorite nighttime shows and meet people that I have only seen on TV or loved their movies. I mean, meeting Adam Sandler alone was like, oh my gosh, you're so real. I shook your hand. So those experiences were insane, and reflecting on it, I mean, it's hard to even like process that when you're going through it, especially at 16, 17, 18, whatever the age was, to really process, wow, I'm meeting people that I've looked up to my entire life and getting to relate to each other, and they're saying that they like music that we created in our bedroom. That's just so crazy. But it was also really intense. I mean, we didn't stop for like 3.5 years at least, if not longer. And I was sick most of the time, and I have just the worst immune system somehow. And, traveling a lot doesn't help. But I was grateful that I was able to somehow, if you have to do it, you have to do it, and your body knows how to push through. But it was nice to be able to not be sick for a minute, too, and get some nice sleep afterwards. But it was totally worth losing sleep to experience all those insane things.
But I guess it must be really nice to be experiencing that in general, but then to do it as siblings. I mean, I know people probably ask you that all the time, but like now having some way, some time to look back on it, like talk about like the special connection that you all have and why that makes your music so great.
Yeah, I mean, it really is such a privilege to experience such crazy things that very few human beings on this earth get to experience, to like play in front of tens of thousands of people, these crazy festivals all around the world, and to make music that people listen to. I mean, that's like, it's strange already, but then to experience that with your siblings is kind of unheard of. And that's like something I think we all have really learned to appreciate as a gift, because it's already such a strange and unique experience. So to be able to connect with each other on that experience, and also understand like there are positive and negative sides to how we all have experienced that individually, but to be able to relate to each other in that way is really special. Because I think often, our friends and other community and family and stuff, they don't totally get what we've gone through. They don't totally get how it's emotionally impacted us, how we've been changed by our experiences and developed through that. And so to be able to have someone that like I can talk to, or that Sydney can talk to, or Graham can talk to, that really gets it is super helpful. And I think that's created a really powerful and beautiful bond between us. And as we made this new record, I think all of us just felt really confident in our relationship with each other. And that felt really good. We were hanging out more, and it was just a ton of fun. There was maybe one experience where like there was an argument during like the music making process.
But it ended up with like a laugh attack.
Oh, I joke about it all the time. And that's like, that's pretty rare. Most bands, I think you have to go through that friction relationally. But for us, like, we just didn't really have to deal with much of that, because I think we're so confident in who we are as individuals in a way, and how we relate to each other. I think that more than anything has been really crucial.
I think a lot of that also comes in with time, right? And time getting to know one another and getting to know the business. I mean, I think a lot of this album, one of the themes that I hear through it is like coming of age, right? That's what you're, talking a little bit about, and that's what you've done in the last few years. The new single you released is called Diamonds, and you have a new video for that. Great song. I do love the title track too, but we talked a little bit about that, but talk a little bit about Diamonds and what made that song.
Diamonds was actually, the chorus was written a couple years ago, and we wrote an entire song actually, and we just loved it, and we sort of played it at shows here and there because we just loved that song, especially the chorus. It really stuck with us. So we had always planned on having that song on the album, and then when it came to the final recording and we wrote a lot of songs last minute as well. So the final stages of this album, earlier last year, we addressed that song, so we definitely want on the album, but there were a few songs like this where I got into the vocal booth to re-record the vocals because I wanted it to feel fresh, and just, your voice changes and you change and you want it to feel relevant to you now, but we ended up changing the entire rest of the song. We rewrote the verses, the bridge, and obviously redid all of the musical parts pretty much as well. So I was literally about to record the song though, and then I was like, I feel like I don't know, we all just looked at each other and we're like, I feel like we can get deeper here and change the story. So we really tell the story of a girl who feels lost and alone and confused in life and feels just so bored with her life, her everyday life, and doesn't feel purpose there. And I think the chorus is just such a good reminder for all of us who have ever felt that way or feel that way right now, that you are special and you are unique and you have so much potential, more than you feel even right now, you know, and we all go through phases like that. I think anyone can relate, no matter how old they are or where they live or what they do. But the chorus is such a good reminder to anyone. So I'm really happy that we ended up rewriting the song to tell the story of a girl who feels that way, which so many times is me. And yeah, it's been really fun to see people's reactions to the video and the song, and really to hear that people are seeing themselves in these songs, especially that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another strand is hope. Hope in a lot of these tracks that we're hearing. Sydney, you wrote a song for your new husband, and did that come about like right before your wedding, or like had you had that in the back pocket for a while?
So the original idea of the chorus, like just the general melody and the words, came to me when I was actually driving by myself on Christmas Day to see him and his family. So I was just driving by myself, which sounds so lonely on Christmas Day. But
2 hours from LA to San Diego.
yeah, sorry, I live in LA. So yeah, I was doing that drive by myself, but it was actually really chill. There was no traffic, and I had come up with the idea pretty much around then that I wanted to write a song for him as a gift, instead of buying him a watch or anything that you can buy. I figured writing him a song I think would be more special. So I came up with that, and I completely forgot about it, and we got married in March. And 2 weeks before that, almost on the dot, we had a show in Japan and had just gotten home, super jet lagged. So I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna write him a song and I'm getting married in 2 weeks, so I should probably do that. And it was about like 11 or 12 at night, and I picked up the guitar and listened to that voice memo that I had in the car, which would be funny to release one day because I don't think it sounds that good, but it's just funny. And
People
I literally,
honking at you and stuff.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then I wrote and recorded the song all that night. And I just recorded it as I was writing it, changing lyrics and holding the microphone and like trying to set it down to like do guitar and just DIY because I had never recorded, you know, by myself. And yeah, so I played it for our first dance. Press play. I didn't actually play it because I needed to dance. Yeah. And that was the first time that I got to hear the song. So it was 2 weeks before, and the original vocal from that night, in the middle of the night from like 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the vocal that you hear on the record. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's really cool. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful song.
Thank you.
You know, this album was released. You released this independently, right? This is on your own.
This is on
record.
our own label, yeah.
Which is a whole different beast. You know, I imagine you're involved from start to finish. Can you talk a little bit about that and, you know, the excitement around that and maybe even the challenges?
Totally. I mean, before we were signed to Warner Brothers, and that was great, and we had a really great team, but that label went through a ton of changes just again and again kind of with us, and that we realized was really kind of stagnating our release process because we were making all this music, getting ready to release it, working with the team, they'd be stoked on it, and they'd be moving on to something else. And so that process that cycle just kept going and going and going. So for us, we realized like the best move for us would be to move on, create our own label. Now we have a fantastic group of people at ADA, they're part of Warner Music Group, and to be able to work with them and have a team that can support the art we create, but also to have it be more guided by the art rather than analytics and data and trying to have who Echosmith is and fit inside of a format feels really fresh. So for us, just to have that freedom to create, just to do kind of what we wanted, felt really good. And we love like all this stuff's fun, whatever. But like at the end of the day, we love making music, and I want to make music that I'm stoked on. I don't want to make music that someone else, whatever. It's like, it should be about us creating art that represents who we are as human beings and then being excited about that. And this really allows us kind of in the best ways to be able to do that and have a lot of freedom with it and also have a great team support it.
Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays you can really do that these days. So, and you're able to, and you're coming off from a big hit. People know who you are, and so it's really exciting. All right, we're going to go to audience questions. Before I do that, you're going on tour.
Yeah.
And so you're playing a round of dates kicking off next month. I believe you're playing a Le Poisson Rouge here, right up the street.
You said that so effortlessly.
I mean,
I'm
I don't know.
struggling.
I majored in French. No, I didn't major in
Did
French.
you?
I took a French class.
I took French class too, and I'm like,
Poisson.
all I know how to say is like, I'd like a hot dog.
How do you say it?
Yeah.
How do you say
Je
it?
voudrais un hot dog. That's it. But I can't say Les Poussons Rouges. I
was
don't know.
good.
It's okay. It just
Yeah.
doesn't sound cool like you said it.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Working on
appreciate that. Okay.
So, yes,
my
we're
high
going
school
on tour.
French class helped me. But yeah, so what can we expect on tour? Have you rehearsed? Have you thought about it yet?
So since we were gearing up for the album coming out just a few days ago, it's been crazy in that sense. And then we're here in New York all week promoting it. So we haven't been rehearsing yet, but once we get home next week, we'll just lock ourselves in a studio. We've been figuring out the set list here and there this week when we have a moment to breathe. But next week, we're like literally locking ourselves in a room until we have the set list, have the moments planned out, because we want to create a really dynamic and really personal show. And we want the really fun parts that we always love to have, whether it's a drum solo or bringing a fan on stage or whatever it is that gets everyone really excited. We want to keep those elements, but we also want to incorporate moments where it feels like it's just you and me hanging out in a living room, kind of like this, and really connect with our fans more than ever and make that the goal, and make the goal to be for everyone to just feel a little better about their lives or whatever they're going through when they exit. So I'm really excited. It'll be fun. So February 13th here in New York, but the whole tour starts February 12th. I'm so excited. Echosmith.com/tour. Plug.
All right. 2 questions in the crowd here. First, starting with you.
So I just want to say the show in New York, the day after, the day before is my birthday.
Is it really?
So, I mean, I'm going to be there. So it's going to be a birthday gift. So,
Oh my
What?
gosh. We should sing happy birthday.
so I wish.
What's your name?
Jada.
Jada. I love that.
Jada, so
And
nice to meet
I'll
you.
be there after school. I'll get out at 12:45. So Love
it.
I'll be there.
Oh.
So my question is, what was the hardest song to write on this record and why?
That's a good question. That's a hard question. I mean, all of them had even little challenges along the way, whether it was, what's the best rhyme for this line? I mean, it could be something as simple as that, or it could be, what do we really want to say, and what's something that we haven't said on this record yet? So, I mean, I would say one of the hardest songs was maybe...
Do you feel like Diamonds, sort of? Because Diamonds,
In some ways, yeah.
we had, an initial version to whatever years ago. And then we had to rewrite the whole thing, so we just felt like we needed to. So that was a bit of a process.
It could be classified as hard.
Difficult. It was a challenge.
It was a process, that's for sure. That's a way to
Yeah,
say it.
It's
And
a process.
And it was an enjoyable one for sure,
Yeah.
but it was definitely a longer process than some of the other songs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Who's next?
Hi.
Hi. Oh my God.
Oh, no,
I
I've
do
done
that all the time.
That's
I hate
my life.
that. I do that when I'm singing, and I'm like, I think my tooth just fell out, but I'll keep going.
Hi, legends. Just want to say I'm really proud of you for this record. It's really amazing. I've been following y'all since 2012, and I'm just like super astounded by where you are at now, and your musicianship has really grown. Like all 3 of you as musicians have really progressed, and it's really amazing to see the progress.
You're so sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
course.
2012. That's a minute.
Yeah.
I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to quite a few shows, Warped Tour and all that stuff. My question is, Everyone Cries is one of the songs on the record that like really hit me a lot. So I just wanted to know, like, what was the atmosphere when y'all were writing that song? Like, what was the headspace y'all were in to write that song? Because I think it's one of the most important songs on the record, and from what I've seen online, it's hit a lot of other fans too.
That's so sweet of you to say. Thank you, first off. That song was actually written kind of a while ago as well, but that was one that we didn't rewrite because it just felt like we were able to feel what we needed to feel in that original writing session and convey what we needed to as well, that we didn't want to touch it, and it still felt just as relevant, when we were putting together the album that it did, back then. So that song felt very raw, and that was actually one of the first very personal songs that we wrote for the album, because we're like, how do we dig in and address going through something so hard and something that feels unbearable, but also have hope streaming through it? So that song just kind of came out of us, and we got to write it with a really awesome songwriter named Mozella that we've written with. We wrote Bright with her, and she's just so cool, and we're able to really just connect. So there was a really I don't know, a good sense of camaraderie and also just love in the room, and everyone felt very comfortable. And I think that's when you come up with a really good and honest song. So that song literally still like can make me cry randomly when I think that, oh yeah, I'm super happy today. Everything is great, because I'm one to just sort of sugarcoat things and be like, it's fine. I want to put on a good face. But then that song sometimes, you know, whether it's I had to listen to a mix or I had to practice it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally am like crying right now because of this song that we wrote a couple years ago. So it's so special that it still can hit me in that way. And it's so special that you hearing it for the first time a couple days ago, it's doing the same for you. So I love that. Thanks.
Thank you, legend.
Of course. You're so sweet.
You're a
What was the
legend.
name one more time? Tati. How do you spell that?
Oh, easy.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Well, thanks for that question. And thank you, Echosmith, for coming by today.
Yeah.
The album's out now. It's called Lonely Generation. Give it up, everyone, one more time. Echosmith.
Thanks, guys.